Hey guys, I'm Eric.
And I'm Nathan.
And we are
Notes
and Nerds
Movie Review.
Nathan, it is so awesome to have you here in the Notes and Nerds studio. It's been so long since we've done stuff together.
Yes, it's very awesome.
Yeah, we've done a lot of shows separate, where he's done it at his home in his little studio, and I've done things here in the Nerd Cave.
But we had to get together on this one.
Definitely. Plus, we're hoping to do more stuff like this together for you guys to enjoy more often. Bring back the core Notes and Nerds again.
Like we did back in the day.
Pretty much. So, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to be reviewing the new Ghostbuster film.
Guys, first of all, we're going to let you know it's a little bit not safe for work.
This is not going to be safe for work.
We're not going to drop a lot of F-bombs and stuff, but we're going to let you guys have...
We're going to give you an honest opinion because we're not being paid off from the companies to lie to you, but for those companies that would like to pay us off, we do accept like $15,000 in the amount for, future references and reviews.
Like that's ever going to happen.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a lot of crap.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, first off, if you haven't finished the video and you started already posting stuff about how we're being sexist and this and that, well, let's get this right off the bat. We thought the girls did a wonderful job.
Yeah, they were heavily stereotyped for their characters.
But that's not them. That was not them acting it that way.
That was the script.
They were written that way.
But the actors themselves are amazing, talented women.
And they did a fine job. The thing is, I was rooting for this film in a way. I wanted it to succeed. I wanted it to be this movie that Dan Aykroyd promised us in his little review. I wanted to love this film. I so did.
Yeah, me as well. I told a lot of people who was just slamming it. I was like, I'm going to reserve my judgment until I see it. And I kept that judgment until I seen it.
It's just, unfortunately, a lot of the trailers lived up to the problem.
Yeah.
The hype machine never got off the ground. It was just dead from the get-go, and I feel so bad. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a Paul Feig fan. You can go to hell. I'm not giving you a death threat or anything like that. I'm not stupid. I just think that all of your movies suck, and this is the pinnacle of them all. Let's go down the road on why Paul Feig's Ghostbusters was a horrible film.
Alrighty.
First off, let's talk about the plot.
The plot was very weak and very...
It was predictable.
Yes.
Horribly predictable. The plot was very simple in the fact that we have this guy who was bullied, who wants to become
the Messiah.
A Messiah of ghosts by bringing them into our dimension, our world, and rule the world. And he had a very, very simple plan that relied heavily on somebody coming into the picture to make everything happen.
Yeah, and he was taken out so easily.
And that was even the worst part. But that's the story problem.
Yeah.
Plot and story, everybody, you got to remember two different things, and the plot itself was just that. Rowan he's a bullied individual who's kind of a goofball who really isn't imposing at all, that wants to rule the world because why not? Let's become a ghost and do so.
Yeah.
Simple, boring, overly simplistic plot.
Yeah, and there was nothing scary about this.
No.
They offered it to be scary, and it was more campy than scary.
That's a story problem. The story itself was so straightforward, no surprises, very simple, boring.
Yes. They had mild backstories for the poor women. They wasn't bad.
The backstory... There was a lot of people are complaining that I don't remember the characters and actresses' names. I'm sorry, I don't have a teleprompter telling me all this stuff. The main two characters, Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig,
I think something like
that. Their characters, a lot of people complained, did not have a connection. They didn't seem to go together so well, and so on and so forth.
For the simple plot, these are four amazing women, but there was no chemistry between them.
That's the big problem that everybody's complaining. But here's the thing. Between Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy's characters, the lack of chemistry is kind of understandable. If you have lost your kinship with a certain friend for years, and we're talking like probably the better part of a decade or so, a decade and a half to 2 decades, you're not going to just rekindle and have an amazing chemistry with that person again.
Yeah, and they also showed that resentment in that film too.
And it kind of helped, even though according to certain leaks prior to release, there was some resentment and issues behind the camera, but we're not going to go into that. Everybody else, I did not like Holtzman, whatever her name was. I did not like her character. She was just weird. Not in a good weird, not like Egon Spengler weird. We're talking like lock you up because you might blow something up weird.
I thought she's hot.
But that's irrelevant. Sure,
That's the only reason why I like the film. Dude, she was weirdly funny, weirdly attractive, and
but the character was just
her.
the character itself just was so odd. Not like I missed.
She
Egon
reminded
odd.
me of a girl in high school that was just so out of place, but she was always awesome to hang out with.
But I think the problem here is that take that girl and turn her up to 11, and that weird awesomeness goes away, and she just becomes weird. And then we have, and I cannot remember her name, the black gal.
She played the female version of Winston.
Not even properly. She was now in the previews. This is where I'm going to have to step back on a preconceived notion that she was very stereotyped in the previews, horribly stereotyped. But when I watched the film, I actually liked her character. She wasn't overly stereotyped. She did fit into the stereotype, but not horribly. I actually liked her character.
Like I said, you had 4 stereotypes in there. You had the inner city girl. You had the chunky tech girl. You had the weird little scientist girl.
The engineer.
And then you had
the straight and narrow.
The straight and narrow.
But it was so hard to like the characters, though. And this had nothing to do with the gals. The characters were hard to like because they fit too much into those stereotypes. Again, let's go back to story elements. The men in the movie were all either one of 2 things for the most part.
They were either stupid or douchebags.
That's it.
I mean, seriously, if you watch, like, The Mayor and how they portrayed Chris Helms.
The mayor was the mayor was a stupid douchebag.
Yeah.
Chris Helms was just stupid.
Yeah.
The overly obvious gay owner of the venue at the rock concert was slightly douchey. Yeah, he was slightly douchey, slightly dumb, but overly gay without saying he was gay. And not in a good light gay. I mean, if I was gay, I would be offended by how Paul Feig portrayed that character.
Even Rowan's character came out kind of douchey.
Rowan's character, this is a real problem for me personally. He was bullied throughout his life, so his answer was to become the bully. That's not a good message at all. At all.
You pick on me, I'm going to become a bully, and I'm going to pick on you all.
And I'm going to kill you. Oh, hey, wait a second. Columbine? How'd that turn out? Ooh, that is a touchy subject. But this is exactly what they did, and that pisses me off.
Yes.
That he took a bullied character and made him even a worse bully that was willing to mass murder people. And I felt no pity for the villain. A good villain. Let's take Loki from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You take a villain like him. He's got these elements, these qualities that you are like, that is a cool character. I like him. But oh my God, he is a villain. He's a bastard. No. But I like him. But he's a villain, so you kind of root, but you don't root for him because that's a villain that you actually appreciate, that you actually want to see in more movies. Rowan, I'm glad he's gone. He was a pussy.
He was taken out with just a shot to the nuts.
There's another problem. These cliches that it was trying to promote this film as woman empowerment. No, you want woman empowerment? Go watch Wonder Woman when it hits. Oh my God, that trailer. We'll talk about it. That's a topic for another time. This was not a woman empowerment film. This was just cheap tricks and bad jokes.
There was a lot of bashing in there. A lot of jokes that wouldn't land correctly. that you were just like, oh, I wouldn't have said that.
I'm sorry, shooting a ghost in the crotch really did what? Nothing, period. It was a stupid gag, and it...
Or, yeah, and I got it everywhere, in every crack.
Oh, my God, that was a horrible, horrible joke. We're not even going to delve into that one. That is beyond not safe for work. But again, the story was just so simple. One of my biggest complaints, too, was how Holtzman came up with these new gadgets without trying. There was no rhyme or reason. Like the little pistol versions of the weapons. There was no rhyme or reason why she decided to come out with those. I mean, if you notice...
did.
Yeah, and the
shotgun,
gauntlet.
the guns, the grenades.
The grenades I liked. That was something that they should have introduced early on.
Yeah.
That made sense. I did appreciate how originally the guns had a weird little handle and stuff, and then she redesigned it to be the proper wand style. That made sense. That was a design change.
I'm going to throw it out there. I really wanted to see Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent, but I could see why they didn't with the passing of Harold Ramis. God bless your soul.
But I'm glad they didn't use him in any type of digitally recreated.
Yeah, because they did have cameos, and Ernie Hudson's was funny.
I loved his.
And the lady that played
Sigourney Weaver's was great. Annie Potts. Oh God, Annie Potts' cameo was just really amazingly fun.
Dan Aykroyd's was good. I had a problem with Bill Murray's.
I didn't. I thought Bill Murray's
character was douche.
But here's the thing: it was kind of playing off.
He was a douche. He was a douche nozzle.
But it was playing off his concept of his character in Ghostbusters 2, Peter Venkman, where he was slightly skeptical and making fun of the ghost industry because he knew what was real, but he was also making fun of those who weren't.
But he actually kind of got his wish because he said if they would have did Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent, that he'd want to die and sacrifice himself in the movie.
He wanted to die by being killed by Satan.
Yeah, well,
he got it.
He got it. He was killed by a Satanistic creature.
He got killed by a ghost that looked like a devil, which I thought was great. It was playing off of his own wishes, so he's definitely not coming back for part 2 unless he's a ghost.
Yeah. Speaking of ghosts, another one I had a problem with. Seriously, a female Slimer? Oh, dude, this pissed me off on so many levels.
I thought it was kind of cheesy. It was campy. It was corny. It was silly. At least
Slimer, the re-envision of Slimer,
I liked it.
It was good, but the female and stuff, I'm like, really?
The female Slimer was overreaching.
And if you were going to do another one, why don't you have a female Stay Puft? Because we don't want it.
Actually, I don't want a sequel.
Yeah.
There was just so many the jokes in this film.
So much ectoplasm, it's not funny.
It was horrible. The jokes again. Let's go back to the jokes. The jokes were so flat. The only good joke I thought was in the film was the issue she had with the delivery kid for the Chinese place. That was the only running joke I loved.
That was funny because he would bring her this thing of broth and one broken wonton, and at the end,
or one shrimp.
Yeah, and at the end, he brings her this container that's full of packed
and
wonton.
The joke was great because we got to talk about the ratio here.
Yeah,
it was great. I loved it. It was funny, and that was the only real joke.
It took you an hour to get here, and you're downstairs.
Yes. That was the only running joke through this whole film that was actually funny. That it made me at least chuckle and kept me watching the film. That's pretty sad when one running joke is what keeps you watching the film.
Yeah. What did you think about the special effects?
The special effects were special. And they didn't affect me very much. They were decent. I think these were good. They were good special effects. It's just they overdid it. Yeah. They overdid it horribly. The ghosts. See, this is where I love the simplicity of the ghosts in the original Ghostbusters. See, this is how bad the Ghostbusters film is. Even during the review, he's yawning.
I'm sorry.
That is how boring the film was. You get these.
I forced myself to watch it.
I kept watching it because I wanted to get a good opinion of the film. I really did. The special effects, I just can't go on too much about them simply because they don't deserve it. They were good effects, but they just overdid it. And I think I'm going to counter myself for a minute. Okay. I think I understand why they were so glowy. so much energy was being absorbed that they just were exhuming so much energy. That's why they glowed so heavily. So maybe
took about 10 of them to a rave and had a party.
You could have taken them to a dark, damp cave and lit that bastard up like it was the middle of day.
We know where Jimmy Hop is now.
But hopefully in the next Ghostbusters film, because unfortunately we know there's going to be another one.
Let's not be a sequel. Let's try to do something
Let's
different.
do a reboot of a reboot.
Well, let's do the idea that they were going to have with Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum's movie, but let's make sure that Paul Feig is nowhere close to this sequel.
Hell no.
Or this movie. But one thing that really bothers me about this film, if you watched through the credits, now they did that whole middle, you start the credits and then every so often they cut in for another little sequence. I like those. There were some great jokes in there. But my biggest problem, and I don't think you watched all the way through the credits.
Are you talking about the dance number?
The dance number. See,
dance number sucks so bad.
I was watching the credit roll, or not the credit roll, but I was watching the film, and there's a scene where Chris Hemsworth's character, when he's possessed by Rowan, makes all the guards and everybody do this psh number, and I'm sitting here going like, and I verbally out loud.
What is the point of it?
I verbally out loud on accident went, "Oh no!" And I had looks.
It's the mask all over again.
People looked and wondered, what the heck are you going oh no for? Luckily, it didn't happen during the film. That would have pissed me off horribly. But no, they still kept it and ran it during the credits. The fucking dance number.
It was stupid.
Ghostbusters.
I was mad enough that they made Chris Helms an idiot. I mean, the dude couldn't even answer a phone.
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. Great actor. I love stuff he plays it, but they just turned him into a freaking walking joke, and it was sad.
I'm sorry, folks. Anybody who could actually be that physically stupid is mentally handicapped. I'm not joking, and I'm not trying to make a joke. Well, no, I'm not trying to make a joke out of this. Anybody who is that, honestly, that stupid, there is mental problems involved. And that is something that this film, again, is nothing but another insult. That's basically what Paul Feig, fuck you, is saying. Yes, I'm getting emotional now, folks, and it's not emotional, it's fuck you emotional. What Paul Feig did was take the notion that men are mentally handicapped. Hey, douchebag, did you check between your fucking legs lately? Yeah, you got the same equipment that we got. You're calling yourself an idiot. Congratulations.
Oh, and I'm going to be a real dick here. We released some of this information last night on Facebook, and I had the pleasure of getting insulted by somebody on my Facebook saying that I'm not a true Ghostbuster because I have a negative opinion. You know what? Suck my balls.
Here's the thing, guys. I'm slightly older than Nathan. I have been a Ghostbusters fan since 1984 when the first film came out. I was a little too young to truly appreciate the film, but I still loved it. And I also, I'm sorry, some people are saying that this film was at least better than Ghostbusters 2. Fuck that. Screw you guys with a barbed wire dildo. Ghostbusters 2 is by leaps and bounds Oscar-worthy in comparison to this pile of dung.
Yes.
It was at least an entertaining film in comparison.
And Vigo was a better bad guy.
And he was barely in it.
Yep.
Guys, I was a Ghostbusters fan from day one when I first saw the original film back in 1984.
I had all the gear.
I also loved, I didn't get all the toys because I was from a very strict, not strict as in like, but budget-wise strict working class family. So getting these toys was difficult. I was lucky to get the cartoon action figures when I was a kid. The thing is, though, I loved Ghostbusters so much that I got the old Scholastic's little reading. Remember those little Scholastic things? I got the book that was only a few pages long about Ghostbusters, and at the end had a certificate. And you put all the stickers on it as you read the pages. And I basically took that book and had so much fun bringing in all of what few friends I had, because I was a bullied kid when I was young. We all had a Ghostbusters club. I was so hell-bent that when I got older, by now I should have been running franchises of Ghostbuster companies. Because I read everything occult. I was big into the occult stuff because of Ghostbusters, because I wanted to know this stuff, because I was going to be a Ghostbuster.
Yep, and I loved the paranormal, and I was a big Ghostbuster fanatic. I had like the Pronto Pack, the Trap, the PKE meter, the figurines. I watched the cartoons constantly. I loved the movies, and then I grew up, and I still love that stuff. It's amazing, but I don't like this movie.
This movie for all intents and purposes, because based on its own individual merits, even if it wasn't, even if the other Ghostbusters films didn't exist, this film sucked. If you take away the element of Ghostbusters and just call it something else, it just is a bad movie. It really is. The plot development, the story elements, the character interactions and chemistry, the special effects, all of it was weak.
They did better. Now, seriously, you could have took that script, you could have took those actors, and if you would have put another director, let's say Michael Bay, or let's say Kevin Smith.
Let's say Kevin Smith.
And it would have been a way better movie.
There's actually
Kevin
a whole
Smith
lot
would
of...
have rocked that
If
shit.
we would have given this back to Ivan Reitman to do, the movie would have been spectacular.
Oh, it would have been so different.
Let's keep the actresses. Let's keep the basic idea of the story. And let's do, like, Ghostbusters.
Ivan Reitman wanted to do it. He got screwed.
Yeah, badly. See, I have a theory about the film, though. Sony wanted a sequel. Hell-bent on a sequel. But they also wanted a reboot. I have a theory that technically this film was actually a sequel. Because we get all the notion that the government has quieted down the idea of Ghostbusters. That the paranormal isn't real, and that they hired the very one guy who was the big Ghostbuster himself, Peter Venkman, gave him a new identity, put him into a type of relocation type deal, and that's why he was who he was. And this way he still got his sequel death. And that all the other characters, come on, think about it. The taxi driver, he knew those lines way too well. I ain't afraid no ghosts. That was one of the catch lines for Ghostbusters back in the original movies, in their little commercials within the movie. So they're all laying down this thing, and the only character that is different would be Sigourney Weaver, but who's to say she didn't get into the industry and stuff.
Between a sequel and a reboot, you know how I see it? As a giant steaming pile of shit.
Pretty much. There's one other thing about this film that I really hated. Hated. The skyline scene at the very end. I love you, Ghostbusters. Thank you, Ghostbusters. This and that, Ghostbusters. I thought that was so flippin' campy.
Yeah, in the original, they were hated.
They weren't hated. They weren't hated, but they were blamed for a few things. And at the beginning of the second film, we understand that they were disliked. Some people still loved them. They were happy to have them. But there were certain ones who, the douchebags in society that always think they know more than somebody else, were downgrading them and saying that they were the cause of the ghost problem. But we all know how it goes. And of course, after the first film,
Because this shit's so boring.
yeah, and as we also know, at the end of the first Ghostbusters film, the paranormal activity started plummeting heavily because Zool was no longer a problem, and Gozer was already defeated.
There is no Zayna, only Zool.
But folks, this film was horrible. There's just...
You guys can debate it and discuss it all you want. And it's your right because it's your opinion. But we are giving our opinion, and we did not like it.
You can tell us how sexist you think we are because of it, but just remember, we thought the girls were great, and I'd love to see another Ghostbusters film with them in it.
Just not the director.
Just get rid of Paul Feig and give us a script that actually promotes the women as actual heroes. Give us a script where the villain is actually intimidating.
Yeah.
And make it fun. And if you want to go scary, give us scary. Don't be afraid of having flashy, funky, weird ghosts. If you want to give us a really, honestly scary Ghostbusters, give us something with a little more blood and gore.
Give us Blair Witch on steroids.
Yeah. something that actually goes into the realm of being a comedy horror film. If you want, great. That's good.
Script,
do it.
Keep girls. Better director.
Pretty much. So, guys, we're going to cut it there because we don't want to ramble too much about how bad this film was.
I got better things to do.
And you can only say so much about a bad film.
I got better things to do.
Pretty much. So, guys, check out more of our content here at notesandnerds.com, plus over at youtube.com/notesandnerds. Plus, you can follow, like, and all that stuff by going to facebook.com/notesandnerds for our social media fun. Because all of our stuff from Instagram, Twitter, so on and so forth, all go there. Plus, you can find us on Tumblr and blah, blah, blah.
So, Eric, who are you going to call?
Not these Ghostbusters.